What's going on, everybody? Jeff Holiday here, and today we have to address something of a bombshell that just happened. It just happened yesterday. I'm making this as quick as I possibly can because I have to try and fight this disinformation as quickly as possible. But a video was released onto YouTube by Project Veritas, which are rather well known, for better or worse, for their investigative journalism. And in this, they're talking to what they call a whistleblower about the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, we're going to be very, very thorough on this, not because what is presented necessarily is that compelling, because it's not, but because the kind of weight that Project Veritas can bring in very specific political circles, to do any less would just invite people to claim that I'm being partisan, that I'm not actually examining the data, or I'm not giving it its fair shake. It's unfortunate that I'm being put in this position. There are other videos that I would much rather be making right now, trust me, but it has to be done, and I will show you why. As of right now, this video was posted maybe 16 hours ago, and it has 2.4 million views. 2.4. Now, it's already been scrubbed off of Facebook and Instagram, and I'm sure it's going to get scrubbed here on YouTube as well. But this is the plandemic all over again. This is, hey, there's this huge, scary thing that you need to know about, and so we're going to shove a bunch of information at you and see if any of it's going to stick. Now, I've already watched this all the way through live on my Twitch channel, and we went through and did as much investigation as we possibly could to make sure that we're prepared to make this video. And I am very excited to share it with you. So let's get started. So this is the introduction to a series. This is only part 1, and the first 3 minutes and 45 seconds is nothing but intro and is chopping up everything else that's in the video, which is a little sketchy, because the video itself is only 13 minutes and 8 seconds long. So to pad this thing out from longer than... And there's also trying to sell James O'Keefe's book at the end of it. There's maybe 6 minutes worth of actual information in here, and it's inflated massively. But I digress. Let's dig in.
My name is Jody OMalley, and I'm a master's prepared registered nurse.
Well, first of all, your hospital is run by HHS, correct?
I work for Health and Human Services with Indian Health Services branch for the Native Americans.
These are federal employees.
Yes.
And we work for the government, so, I mean, the main thing is we have to follow.
I know. I mean, that's another thing. I don't know how much longer I'll be here.
And the protocols here.
I know.
Now, it's really interesting that at the very beginning of this, the very first clip that's shown in her hidden camera footage is her coworkers expressing that they have to follow the rules, and Jody OMalley saying that she doesn't know how much longer she'll be there, as in she might be quitting her job. And I have a theory as to why this video was made, and we'll get to that near the end of this video, but I just want to put that in your ear a little bit as we move along.
Are the policies and administrators coming directly from the federal government?
Yes.
The problem in here, they are not doing the studies. People that had it, you know, and the people that have been vaccinated, they're not doing any antibody testing.
But that is not true. That's not true whatsoever. We've been doing the testing quite a lot. Now, there are 2 main arguments that we can make on this and that we should probably address really, really quickly. One is, have we been doing any testing? Well, now the concept that we don't do any studies trying to figure out antibody levels of people who have been infected with COVID versus people who have gotten the vaccines is wildly inaccurate. There are study after study after study. But even when it comes down to a logical deduction on this idea, we know, for example, that the Delta variant has some degree of antibody resistance. How would we know that if we weren't testing antibodies? Even at face value, this argument falls flat. And the second is the basic problem with using an antibody test itself to decide whether or not you have the right kind of protection, the amount of protection that you want. and that comes down due to the nature of our immune system. The nature of how antibodies exist in our body is incredibly complicated. To make a long story very, very short, helper T cells will stimulate B cells, and those B cells that are tuned for that antibody will then begin to start producing them. Now, even if they're not necessarily producing them at the time, it doesn't mean that you don't have the protection, it's just that they aren't needed to produce as much. Rapid antibody tests, which is what most people would really like us to have access to, are not necessarily going to be a good predictor for how much immunity you have, because you might not have anything that's triggering your body to kick into high gear and produce a bunch of antibodies. This is why even if you have a vaccine, if you were to get a rapid antibody test, it might test negative. In fact, you might get a completely wild different result because it's not specifically designed for that. Antibody testing is supposed to be done only specifically in a lab under controlled situations so that you can actually have a degree of accuracy.
Now you got this guy in room 4 who got his second dose of vaccine on Tuesday, has been short of breath. Okay, now his BNP is elevated, D-dimer elevated, ALT, all his liver enzymes are elevated, his PTINR is elevated.
He's got prone myocarditis.
Yes.
Oh, this is bullshit.
And then
No,
let's
it's
see.
probably myocarditis due to the vaccine.
Right.
But now they're not going to blame the vaccine.
Well, and you know what? But he has an obligation to report that, doesn't he?
Oh,
it
yes.
happened, right? What is it? 60 days after, if you see anything?
They have got to.
But how many people are reporting?
They are not reporting.
Right.
Because they want to shove it under the the mat.
So what's really kind of weird about this, even in this clip itself, it kind of contradicts itself. There's a guy that they believe might have myocarditis due to the vaccine, which is something that can happen. I believe it's like 1 in 1,000 people in one report, and then the one that I found that was a little bit better verified was about 1 in 5,000 people might experience myocarditis. And for those who don't know, a very common symptom of myocarditis can be chest pains, a little shortness of breath, and feeling like your heart's fluttering a bit. You can get that from a lot of different things, but is it potentially a side effect from the vaccine? Yeah. And if it's treated and you're released fine, okay. Is that better than getting COVID? If you're prone to having myocarditis, yeah, probably. You're probably way better off. But in this clip, they even say, isn't it 60 days to report it to VAERS? Well, they're talking about something that's happening right now. I mean, does the doctor need to drop everything and then go and report it to VAERS that very, very second? I mean, it feels like a nothing burger. But what it feels like even more to me is two anti-vax Karens talking about this in their hospital and voicing their frustrations because of their preconceived beliefs that they are carrying into their work. And I have some evidence to support that theory, but we'll get to that.
In this instance with Dr. Gonzalez, what patient was she referring to, or without saying
She
the
was
name?
referring to that patient that had congestive heart
Congestive
failure.
heart failure. And in that particular patient's case, it was not reported.
No.
I'm going to have to transfer you to another hospital.
Okay.
We don't have cardiologists here. And what you're developing is like a congestive heart failure. Okay? And that's not good. I don't know where this is coming from.
So, developing like congestive heart failure. You're developing like congestive heart failure, and I don't know where this is coming from. However, she's then going to say...
On July 29th, you had the first COVID vaccine, and August 19th, you had the second. You know, you don't have COVID, okay, but you have got a lot of symptoms, you know, and you're developing congestive heart failure.
Whether
She's not a cardiologist, but she's going to diagnose as congestive heart failure. Also, you should probably go see, a cardiologist to make sure. And by the way, don't pay attention to the fact that there's a nurse standing there filming you while she's talking about it. This is so fucking sus. Holy shit.
other instances that they didn't report?
Oh, I've seen dozens of people come in with an adverse reaction.
Was one of the ones you saw a 15-year-old with blood clots?
Yeah, so I was just covering a nurse. He's in here with bilateral PEs, but he's fine. And I'm like, okay.
This one is amazing. Pay very close attention to what we're about to see.
So he wasn't on oxygen or anything like that. And I said, was he vaccinated? And then she's like, I don't know. So then I looked in the chart, and he was. He had.
So here's the thing. They are bringing up that this teenager comes in, and he's got pulmonary embolisms, blood clots. Otherwise, that it obviously has to be the COVID vaccine. However, patient is a 15-year-old male with a history of asthma, presents to emergency department for shortness of breath. 2 days, which become worse yesterday evening. Patient also had 2 days of urinary symptom myalgias, malaise, rhinorrhea, non-productive cough, intermittent episodes of nausea, and 1 episode of emesis. Otherwise tolerating oral intake. No abdominal pain or changes in bowel or bladder function. States that he had a friend who he thinks had strep throat. Patient had first dose of Pfizer COVID immunization end of July and is due for second dose tomorrow. Patient has been hospitalized for asthma in the past. Last time he was on oral steroids was last year. No history of intubation for asthma. Chronic problems. Hospitalized at Phoenix Children's for asthma exacerbation and pneumonia. Now just wait. Hang on. Let's finish this little segment in their video. And we're going to explain why this is so incredibly snaky.
And I said, was he vaccinated? And then she's like, I don't know. So then I looked in the chart, and he was. He had the Pfizer vaccine at the end of July, and he was due for a second dose. So this is essentially 2 to 3 weeks later. Most likely cause of hypoxia, unusual PE at this age. Unclear etiology. They don't know why he got it.
Now, this is what's amazing. This is why I knew, once I heard the name Project Veritas, that this was going to be not what they were going to present it. Because not only are they usually disinformation agents, but they're also really, really bad at their job. Let's play back just a couple of seconds. Watch this.
So this is essentially 2 to 3 weeks later. Most likely cause of hypoxia.
Did you see that? Did you see that scroll? Yeah, so that scroll just kind of bypasses some stuff on the bottom. It's intentionally tried to be blurred out. But the super sleuths over at my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/RealJeffHoliday, have helped me enhance this to figure out what it says. This is the evidence. This is Project Veritas's evidence that this could be related to the vaccine, this medical record. Keep that in mind. Take a moment, lean back, and just kind of relax your eyes, and it's actually a little bit easier to read. At the bottom, doubt event is related COVID-19 vaccine, but report through VAERS. And also, right as I'm finishing editing this, I got this amazing quick screenshot from somebody named Mando the Pando in my Discord. Good job, buddy. Their own evidence itself, the stuff that they were trying not to show you, which they could have just, cut out and not used flashy transitions, and then it wouldn't be a problem at all. But again, they're bad at their job. Their own evidence, this person's medical records states not related to the COVID-19 vaccine. Project Veritas is fucking clown shoes.
So how do we know that the blood clots, or how do you know that the blood clots are a result of the COVID vaccine?
Because this is a 15-year-old, normal weight, healthy child. No reason for him to have a blood clot.
Except for that whole being hospitalized for asthma, having constant problems with asthma. I wonder, if one were to go and look and see if a pulmonary embolism could possibly be something that happens or is further exacerbated or at a higher risk of if you have asthma, I wonder if someone looked that up, what they might find. Let's do that. Asthma increases pulmonary thromboembolism risk, a nationwide population cohort study. We identified 31,356 patients with newly diagnosed asthma in 2002 to 2008, and 125,157 individuals without asthma randomly selected from the general population, frequency matched by age, sex, and index year using the National Health Insurance Research Database. Both cohorts are followed up until the year 2010 to measure the incidence of pulmonary embolisms. Results. The overall incidence rate of pulmonary embolism showed a 3.3-fold increase in asthmatic patients compared to the non-asthmatic cohort. So 3.3 times more likely to get a pulmonary embolism if you have asthma. That's weird. It seems like something maybe, I don't know, a nurse should probably know about.
It's a shame they're not treating people. I know. Like they're supposed to, like they should. And I think they want people to die.
And how many have you seen that have gotten vaccinated here?
That got sick and side effects? A lot.
A lot.
Have you seen it too? Yeah.
Yes.
Cells,
And I'm like, who's
PEs,
writing the VAERS report?
Nobody, because it takes over a half an hour to write the damn thing.
Right.
The CDC website, it says that you're required to report adverse events following vaccinations. Is there a policy at the hospital for reporting these complications? No.
There's never been any directive sent out on reporting.
Now, I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, but it'll probably be until I die, that VAERS can be anything. People can report anything that they want to VAERS. It isn't just used for doctors. It's used for citizen reporting, like, I got a bellyache after I got an MMR vaccine, and it goes into VAERS. There are instances of people claiming that they were struck by lightning because the vaccine attracted lightning. This has happened. There are cases in VAERS where somebody blames a heart attack that they had at age 60-something on a childhood vaccine. This is, you cannot rely on VAERS. Now, whether or not you want to have the argument that maybe, possibly, we need to standardize doctors reporting into VAERS, sure, maybe, couldn't hurt. More data is always good, but as it's been proven, VAERS is not necessarily a cohesive collection of good data. It's just a data dump that then later has to be further investigated.
With this vaccine, we are in stage 3 clinical trials. Normally, stage 3 clinical trials is where you gather your data. What the responsibility on everyone is to gather that data and report it. And if we're not gathering that data and reporting it, then how are we going to say that this is safe and approved for use?
Mostly because that type of data is done by researchers and scientists, people who have dedicated their lives to understanding the actual physical properties of our immune system and being able to correctly identify those things. This idea that we need everybody gathering it together and vomiting every bit of information we can get into VAERS is going to provide us with good insight is actually insane and displays a fundamental misunderstanding of vaccine research, immunology, and just how to do your own fucking basic job. I'm sorry.
Come after 18 months, we haven't had any research. Isn't that fishy to you?
It does. It is
doesn't.
It's super fishy.
Not that it hasn't been done. It hasn't been published.
It hasn't probably been done because the government doesn't want to show that the darn vaccine is full of shit.
That's a pretty coherent argument there. And yes, we have done research. We do understand the safety and the efficacy of our vaccines. I will display some for you now. Now, speaking just domestically in the United States, over 380 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been given. This has been shown to be safe and effective overwhelmingly. Yes, there are, in fact, some side effects. These can be swelling, redness, pain, fever, headache, tiredness, muscle pain, chills, and nausea. Even potentially serious safety problems are incredibly rare, things like anaphylaxis or the blood clots that they were talking about earlier. These can occur at a rate of about 7 per 1 million. That is a staggering number. But we also know that they confer an overwhelming immunity. You can still get a breakthrough case, of course, but then the effects of COVID itself are incredibly lessened. Your survival rate goes up the more you take the vaccine. And as far as long-term effects, the mRNA that is inside the vaccine does not live past 72 hours. And because it doesn't actually penetrate the nucleus of the cell, it cannot cause any genetic changes, despite what some anti-vaccine cranks would like to claim. However, on the flip side, we do understand that you can have long-term effects from COVID-19 even if you had a mild case. In fact, in some studies, it's been shown that 1 in 10 people still have one moderate to severe symptom from their COVID-19 infection. The evidence is clear.
What does she mean by full of shit?
It's not doing what its purpose was.
And what is Dr. McGee saying in that video?
He's trying to defend the vaccine.
Why would he do that?
Because that's his view on it.
Okay.
His view is get the vaccine, it's science, right? If we all just get it, this will all be over with.
Such a bunch of bullshit.
But that's true. That's true. He's right. Like this is so amazing. It's watching two people say something that is totally reasonable and factual as if it's crazy. My mind is blown.
Shit.
What we're gonna have to do is we're on the inside. I'm thinking about it.
And what do we do?
I don't know, but there's so much I want to blow up.
So much. How do we do that?
Like, Project Veritas.
So, I am thoroughly convinced either this was recorded after she was already talking to Project Veritas, or this is just them telling on themselves, like, hey, we can utilize our position as nurses in this hospital, hook up with Project Veritas, and make this into a giant spectacle. So we can finally have our anti-vax positions aired to the larger world. This is not compelling evidence. This is kind of telling on yourself. I'm sorry.
Why are you choosing to blow the whistle? It's not what a lot of people would do. They're scared, they're afraid.
What prompted me to do this was when I was house supervisor one night, and one of my co-workers had taken the vaccine, and she didn't want to. She had went throughout this entire pandemic working in the intensive care unit. Pretty much was a COVID unit.
Yeah, it's really sad. She had just come back from surgery from leave 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks, and then got her first dose of vaccine after surviving this entire pandemic.
Now, after having watched this video twice through, I then spent about an hour to an hour and a half checking local news station stories around Phoenix, Arizona, around this time frame, trying to find any kind of news article, any kind of footage about a nurse passing away from a COVID vaccine or just passing away in general. There is, so far, nothing that I could find. In fact, there's not even any dedication for this video towards this person. And there's something even more troubling about this, which we will get into in just a little bit. Hang on, we're almost to the big reveal.
She didn't want to take it. She didn't want to take it because of her religious beliefs. And she was coerced into taking it. And it's like, nobody should have to decide between their livelihood, being a part of the team in the hospital, or take the vaccine.
Yes, they should. They absolutely should. Because if you're not vaccinated and you're a healthcare worker, you are a potential viral factor to then kill your fucking patients. Yes, she should have to make that decision, just as Jody needed to make that decision. But Jody made a different decision. Didn't you, Jody? You made a different decision. But wait, no, hang on. We'll get there. Just wait.
Now we're just making people take it, and then there's reactions to it, and then you have a medication that has been shown effective and surely has no adverse reaction.
Bring it to me. Bring it to me. Bring it to me. For those of you keeping score on my channel recently, I wonder if you're going to be able to pick out what medication she's talking about.
It's for trying it.
Did Dr. Bakwa talk to you about prescribing ivermectin for...
Boom! Of course. Ivermectin. You see, it would be fine. They would not have died in vain if only we had just started packing their mouths full of horse paste.
Right now, what is plaguing this country is the spirit of fear.
Are you afraid?
It's my career, it's how I help people.
Is it your career? Is it still your career? Are you sure?
But am I afraid? I wouldn't necessarily say I'm afraid because my faith lies in God and not man. So I have 2 older kids that are on their own, and I have a 12-year-old at home that I care for on my own. What kind of person would I be if I knew all of this? This is evil. This is evil at the highest level. You have the FDA, you have the CDC that are both supposed to be protecting us, but they are under the government. And everything that we've done so far is unscientific.
Everything we've done so far is unscientific, which is why I was trying to get them to let me give horse paste to people who are very sick. Gotcha. It's also unscientific, which is why I'm blaming a vaccine for a pulmonary embolism when somebody had asthma problems. Okay. All right, Jody.
Are you afraid they're going to retaliate against you?
Yeah. I'm a federal employee. What other federal employees do you see coming out?
But you put your faith in God.
Amen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You gotta prime the audience right. You gotta know the right things to say to make sure that people are getting your clear messaging. Vaccine evil, Jody good. Government evil, trust God. Okay? Now that our messaging is complete, I wonder if there's, even with just a cursory look, just a very quick cursory look, if we can find maybe some reason, maybe some way of knowing why exactly this whole thing came about. Is there maybe some kind of incentive that Jody OMalley might have had in order to want to come forward as a whistleblower? It would be strange. Maybe something like, incredible, over $150,000 raised for HHS whistleblower Jody OMalley. You can support this brave hero on the Christian crowdfunding website Give, Send, Go. And as of right now, it's up to $221,000. This is in less than 24 hours. This is amazing. Amazing. You see, I'm very upset. I'm very emotional because I might lose my job that I already wanted to leave.
I know. That's another thing. I don't know how much longer I'll be here.
That I did not like having to obey the actual standard rules that I agreed to when I took the job. And hey, by the way, have you ever heard of Project Veritas? And now you have... And it's not like Project Veritas has to fucking give this woman any money. They're not giving her any money. They're just putting her on this video that's now probably by now over 2.5 million views, and put out some crowdfunding links. And then suddenly, all the people who get sucked into this and believe the bullshit that Project Veritas tells them are hemorrhaging money to give to her. That's how this works. This is the grift. Now, I think it's also important to point out that Jody OMalley has been an anti-vaxxer for a while. She also routinely on her Facebook page talks about ivermectin, talks about how masks don't work, talk about this, talk about that. Now, in that Project Veritas video itself, it says patient passed away on August 28th of this year. Yet, if we're looking here, August 26th, August 27th, Oh, Pierre Corey. Hey, yeah, of course we know Pierre Corey. August 27th, 28th, 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 29th. I've gone through and I've looked. She doesn't say anything about that coworker that passed away. Not one thing. It's not on her Facebook wall. Yet this is the thing that impacted her so deeply that she had to come out and fight the good fight.
Why are you choosing to blow the whistle? It's not what a lot of people would do. They're scared, they're afraid.
What prompted me to do this was when I was house supervisor one night, and one of my coworkers had taken the vaccine and she didn't want to. She didn't want to take it. She didn't want to take it because of her religious beliefs.
If your motivation was solely because this person passed away, you believe unduly, yet for some reason, you're too busy posting a bunch of anti-vaxxer memes on your personal Facebook wall, and you don't talk about your friend, because obviously you're not worried about the hospital seeing your anti-vax sentiments, why wouldn't you post about that person? It makes me call into question whether or not that really was your motivation. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you had a different motivation in the realm of currently 221,000 reasons to do this? Maybe? And as far as James O'Keefe and Project Veritas goes, yet again, they display a level of absolute incompetence in trying to do this performative whistleblower bullshit, and all of it is entirely because of politics. And what it really comes down to is, when you're using politics in this manner, you are effectively putting people at massive risk of harm and death. It's why I've started having to call people like this in a death cult, because they do not care. The people that they are actually speaking to, the audience that it's intended for, they don't care if you die. They don't. Because whether you live or you die, you are politically useful for them. And they have to keep up this messaging because it's the only way to be truly effective against their political opponents. This is fucking sick. This is just further propagandization. There is nothing coherent in it. There's no good evidence that's brought forward. There's no clear citations that we can actually look at and reference. There's nothing. It's an anti-vax Karen whining and babbling to James O'Keefe, and now she's going to get a huge bankroll off the backs of gullible people. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm sorry that we're having to keep talking about COVID and vaccinations and things like that, but this is the most relevant topic right now, and I know that I will never get as many views as that Project Veritas video. My only hope is that there are people that are on the fence or that are scared by things like this, and this video finds them and helps to empower them to not be manipulated by shitheads like this. That's my hope. That's my intent. Because debunking pseudoscience does not get as much views as the pseudoscience, nor does it pay nearly as well. Anyway, from my family to yours, I hope you're well. I hope they're well. Take care of yourselves. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.